Unite the Seven. Or the Six, I guess. Zack Snyder's Justice League is bold, it's epic, and as advertised, it's 4 hours long. More importantly, the Snyder Cut suggests a drastically different ending than what we saw in the 2017 film. So much so that if Warner Brothers ever tried a sequel or sequels to this, the future of the DCEU would look very different. We've got the full breakdown, plus a hidden superhero finally makes his presence known, and don't forget a fresh batch of all the Easter eggs we could find in this 4-hour behemoth of a movie. But before we get to all of that, I have to warn you, we are about to get into some heavy spoilers for a bunch of the new stuff in the Snyder Cut, so if you haven't seen it yet or you don't want to know, now is the time to dip out into the Speed Force for a little jog until we're done here. Okay, now that we're past the spoiler warning, let's get right to the big reveals, and stick with me for a minute because there's kind of a bunch of them. The ending to Zack Snyder's Justice League is kind of crazy. Yes, Steppenwolf successfully unites the 3 mother boxes, but is defeated by the newly formed Justice League, just like in the regular Justice League, but we get the reveal that in the doing of all of this, Steppenwolf found the anti-life equation hidden on Earth, and Darkseid is all like, "Oh, I like that." For the uninitiated, the anti-life equation is a complex math formula represented here as this cool scripty looking design. Whoever knows the equation is supposed to be able to dominate the will of any sentient race across the multiverse, which we know absolutely does exist thanks to the Flash. Steppenwolf unlocks the equation somewhere on Earth, but the exact locale is still unknown to everyone, including Batman, including Darkseid, and including us, the viewers. Anyway, Darkseid's lingering presence is felt in the original film, but Zack Snyder's version feels much more urgent, like we're watching the middle act of a much larger story.
When we were finishing the movie, the idea of finishing the movie was that these movies are, that they're certainly, even just in what I've done, there is a bigger world universe, and the sort of post-Darkseid world is a thing that I certainly is woven into the fabric of this movie so deeply that I just didn't feel like I could make an ending that didn't feel like a cliffhanger of some kind.
The addition of lots more Darkseid and the anti-life equation definitely adds some extra intrigue to the end of this film, where Darkseid is readying an armada to come and inquire the equation for himself. So a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League would have to include Darkseid's invasion, but that's not all. The film's epilogue takes us back to the Nightfall reality we first saw in The Dark Knight's fever dreams in Batman vs. Superman. This time, Batman and his sweet duster are surviving what looks like a post-Darkseid wasteland with an unlikely group of stragglers: Cyborg, Flash, Mira the Atlantean, Deathstroke, and the kicker, Jared Leto's Joker.
I really felt like these fans deserved a Batman Joker confrontation scene, and this post world seemed like a great place to put it, because for me there was a lot of ideas I had about, and you in the scene, I mean, not to spoil the scene, it totally makes sense what's happening within the context of Joker being part of this little group.
And now, in this ruined reality, Batman is doing the Suicide Squad thing with this group of survivors to find the anti-life equation, and he has to team up with what has to be the most hateable version of a very hateable character to do it. Now that's a sequel I would love to see.
We live in a society.
Actually, if Joker did live in a society, it's long gone by now. In their tense scene together, Joker taunts Batman over which Robin he killed personally, but he also blames Batman for their current predicament. The world of this future went to hell after Lois Lane died and Superman lost his main link to humanity, whose name happened to not be Martha. And if that sounds a bit too Dr. Manhattan-y for you, consider this. There are also a few shots in this film that strongly suggest that Lois and Clark are expecting a tiny little Kryptonian/human hybrid, a baby in other words.
A pregnant Lois, would be a devastating loss to Superman, of course.
Bruce has now had visions of this alternate Nightfall future at least twice. That, plus the new knowledge of what Darkseid is really up to, sets up this bleak version of DC's possible future. Earth is conquered by Darkseid, who is apparently aided by a grieving and disconnected Superman, and Batman is leading his small band of survivors to fight back and possibly set things right.
We do have something to celebrate.
Good boy.
But Joker and Darkseid aren't the only big additions here. Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke appeared in 2017's Justice League in a scene with Lex Luthor teasing the formation of the Injustice League. That scene is again included in Zack Snyder's film, though it plays out a little bit differently. This time, Lex motivates Deathstroke to join him by revealing Batman's secret identity:
Bruce Wayne.
But then, almost immediately, we see an aged Slade Wilson working with Batman and his band of survivors sometime after Darkseid's eventual invasion. If any kind of sequel springs forth from Zack Snyder's Justice League, it seems surely Deathstroke would be involved in that story in some way. And in two major scenes, we meet John Jones himself, the Martian Manhunter, played by Harry Lennox. First, we get a scene where he shapeshifts as Martha Kent to try and encourage Lois to get back to her journalism career after losing Clark. Then, in the film's final scene, Martian Manhunter reveals himself to Bruce Wayne as the artist formerly known as Lieutenant General Calvin Swanwick. John Jones tells Bruce what we already know, that Darkseid is not finished with Earth and that the Justice League needs to find the anti-life equation before Darkseid does, but this particular shapeshifter from Mars is on team and ready to help.
Well, I'll be in touch.
Barry, I'm connected to the Unity. I need the charge to get inside.
When you watch 2017's Justice League and Zack Snyder's film back-to-back, it's easy to see what's missing from the version released in theaters. A whole bunch of good stuff about Cyborg. In a lot of ways, Cyborg is the main point-of-view character for this movie, and most of the personal moments in this movie belong to him. The Snyder Cut spends a lot of time building up his character, and with a full explanation of his abilities, it's clear that this Cyborg is immensely powerful. He really is at this movie's heart, and if you felt his performance in 2017's Justice League was a little thin, there's a lot more to plug into here story-wise.
Let me speak to you from my heart, not as a scientist, as a father.
So let's run it back. We get a lot more Cyborg, a lot more Darkseid, we get Martian Manhunter, post-apocalyptic Leto Joker, and more Deathstroke in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So if your interest lies in seeing these characters on screen, this movie is pretty awesome. Now, real quick, just to be clear, this is not a review. We'll link you to IGN's full review of Zack Snyder's Justice League at the end of this video, so make sure that you hang out with us for that. Now, that said, my biggest criticism of this movie was definitely how long it was, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. The fact that both versions of this film exist gives us the rare experience of examining everything that came before in 2017 and apparently everything that didn't make that cut. If the Snyder Cut was released as a series instead of a movie, it would be my clear favorite, but since it wasn't, I guess I just have to say I'm glad both versions exist.
That feels like an oversimplification.
And it wouldn't be an episode of Canon Fodder without an Easter egg roundup, so
Here we go.
sorry, wrong Joker. Anyway, we got this rad shot of Batman atop a bat tank that looks exactly like the one from The Dark Knight Returns. Something tells me this version doesn't feature rubber bullets.
Sorry, guys. I didn't bring a sword.
The scientist working alongside Dr. Silas Stone, who inherits Star Labs at the end, that's Ryan Choi, a future superhero who will eventually take up the mantle of the Atom. R.I.P. to this particular Green Lantern. There are no Green Lanterns on Earth in the main timeline of this film, but we do see a very dead Kilowog in Cyborg's vision of the Nightfall future. The woman flanking Darkseid when we see through to the other end of the boom tube? That's Granny Goodness, a delightful ray of sunshine from the comics who finds young soldiers for Darkseid. Her interests include brainwashing, torture, and long walks on the beach, except the beach is mostly lava. Anyway, moving on. And this truck that is absolutely about to crash has Gardner Fox written on the side of it. That's the name of the writer who created the hero we know as the fastest man alive. But here's the important part. What did you think of the Snyder Cut? What about Darkseid, Leto Joker, and Martian Manhunter? And would you get psyched for a full-blown Nightfall sequel? We waited so long for the Snyder Cut, so let's keep the excitement going in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode of Canon Fodder, and for more Snyder Cut, check out IGN's full review of that whole 4-hour movie, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.
This guy's probably fought hundreds of thousands of other super beings on the other planets he's destroyed, right? And we have to assume he's won.
I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us. Not us united.